Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, I'm still dealing with what happened this weekend. So much shock, especially with the UCLA Penn State game. Nobody can get over that. And then Texas went down there and got bullied by Florida. Florida coming in there at 1-3, UCLA at 0-4. And this really helps the Vols quite a bit, my team, by eliminating two teams out of the playoff pretty much. I mean, Texas now has 2 losses. And Arch Manning is just not looking good at all. I don't see any way they go undefeated from this point forward. So unless Texas pulls off a miracle, playoff is not looking good for them. Penn State, who is just, I had them marked down as being in the playoff, just virtually guaranteed. Just beat the teams you're supposed to beat and you're in. Well, they didn't do that. So they've really got a third loss because anybody that has 2 losses going into the playoff is going to get ranked ahead of them because they've lost to a 100th place team in UCLA who was 0-4 coming into this, had fired their head coach, offensive, and defensive coordinators. They fired everybody and somehow pulled it off. And Nico does Tennessee a huge favor. Anyway, I want to show you some of the reactions of really people that were just as shocked as I, really more shocked than I was, especially if that's Penn State your team, or Texas is your team, or Florida, especially Florida is your team, because they don't know whether to be happy or sad. They have no idea what to do with this win. Well, let's start out with Penn State and sort of get their reaction because as surprised as we all are, they can't believe it. You know, they've been watching Penn State forever, and so have we. I mean, they always win the games they're supposed to win. And this just defied all logic. And here's a fella that's been watching Penn State for a very long time.
Penn State fans, Bob Flounders here at the Rose Bowl with my man, Joe Hermit. Guys, I've been on the beat. I think this is my 24th year. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of bad stuff. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. I've seen a lot of great stuff with Penn State. I am stunned by what I just saw in the Penn State-UCLA game. UCLA wins 40-37. They were a 24-point underdog. They were winless. They had an interim head coach. This team, who James Franklin called the most complete team in his 12 years in terms of personnel and coaching, got badly outplayed in the first quarter, made a rally, but when push came to shove, and there was actually more Penn State fans here than UCLA fans, I think. The defense really never stopped this team that was winless. The quarterback, Nico, I have struggled to pronounce his name. He was the guy that played at Tennessee last year. He is an elite athlete, but they had no answer, none for him as a thrower, but mostly as a scrambler. On third down, he just tortured Penn State's defense. They lost.
Yeah, Nico, who is a fine runner. You know, I'll never take that away from him. For 6'6", the kid can move. Why in the world Penn State didn't put a spy on him, especially in the second half when it became obvious he was just going to run the ball every time? They didn't do that. I mean, why do you not bring a safety in that's like, 6 foot, 200 pounds that runs a 4.5 40 to take care of this guy every time he tries to run? They didn't do it. And they paid $3 million for a defensive coordinator at Penn State who they got from Ohio State. And he can't figure out a way to stop a running quarterback who's 6'6". Now, it's one thing if he's, runs a 4.3 40, but Nico's not that quick. But they had no answer for him, and I give all the credit in the world for Nico for seeing those gaps. And every time those edge rushers would over-pursue and come around the edge, he would just slide right underneath, and there would be nobody in the middle of the field to deal with him at all. Nobody. And let's get another reaction from a Penn State fan who he can't believe it either.
UCLA 42, Penn State 37. Let me repeat that. UCLA 42, Penn State 37. My name's Connor Griffin. Maybe foolishly, I thought that I wouldn't have to come on here and do another one of these embarrassing podcasts after a loss where I'm sad and depressed and angry, and I just feel so pathetic. I did not think I was going to have to do another one of these until at least Ohio State. And now the Phillies are on, up 3-0 over the Dodgers. Bedlam at the bank, Red October. I can't even focus on that. I'm so furious and disappointed after what I just saw in that Penn State game. It is hands down the worst loss in James Franklin's career, at least his tenure at Penn State. I'm not going to speak to the Vanderbilt days. And it is 100% the worst loss that I have experienced as a Penn State fan, having been watching games for 20 years now, started in 2005 as a 5-year-old. And I just don't know how else you could paint this. This is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable. And we'll get into everything. It's been like 30 or 40 minutes since the game ended. I'm still I can't believe the thoughts that are rattling around in my head right now. Like I'm so mad. So mad. I don't know the last time I've been this mad.
Folks, that is universal in Penn State land. Happy Valley is not so happy. I can tell you they can't believe. This is like, I'm struggling too. I really am. I cannot believe that Penn State could go and lay an egg like this with the talent they have. This is a team that's, primed to win a national title. Honestly, they had a legitimate shot this year of winning a natty, and they've already got 2 losses. And this one is devastating. When it comes to their strength of schedule, it's so harmful for their chance to get into a playoff, even if they go undefeated from this point, although they'd have to beat Ohio State, which I don't see happening, at Columbus. And Ohio State fans are like, I'm glad you got this defensive coordinator you wanted so bad that you paid $3 million for that can't figure out how to stop a guy 6'6" quarterback from running all over him. But they had no answer. And it would not be fair of me to not show Zach Anderson of Locked On UCLA, because I've showed him multiple times where, he was kind of upset about Nico and, of course, them starting out 0-4. I got to show him enjoying this.
Putting the Bruins literally on his back, carrying them with his legs, 5 touchdowns accounted for, 3 on the ground, and 128 yards rushing. That doesn't include the yardage lost from the sacks. And overall, a 70% completion percentage. He had a performance that not even Joey Aguilar could have done to lead UCLA to victory. No quarterback, I think, in the country could have had a performance like this, where Nico was getting popped multiple times, trying to lean in for touchdowns. On the 2-point conversion, where he single-handedly raced around like you might see in a high school field on a Friday night in Southern California, found the guy wide open, and kept the Bruins in front. Because if the Bruins don't get that 2-point conversion, that's a 3-point game, and Penn State, all they need is a field goal, or they're driving for the win late in that game before they got stopped on 4th down. And instead, Nico comes through with one of the best individual efforts I've ever seen from a quarterback. Just the ability to keep the play alive, to keep the ball out of harm's way.
Yep, I got to give Nico credit. Played a great game. Nobody's more surprised than the Penn State folks.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Yep, he was their huckleberry. There's no question about it. And again, that eliminates Penn State, not completely, but it really puts them behind the 8 ball. Any more losses at all, and they're definitely out of the playoff. And Tennessee's moved up to number 12 from 15th because of this loss and, of course, the Texas loss as well. We got to get into that because Arch Manning did not look good. And it was like the backup quarterback they put in for one play that threw a dart for 20 yards and didn't sit there and wait until somebody got open. He threw in anticipation. I'm like, why not give that guy a try? And everybody thought that. Anyway, Florida does not know what to do with this win. They really don't, because they are so ready to fire Billy Napier. It's been going on for 2 years now. They've had the Mayflower truck out in front. They've done it all. And now they're having to deal with this win over a top-ranked Texas team who was ranked number 1 in preseason, looked like an absolute lock to get into the playoff. Now they're pretty much out of the playoff unless just they go undefeated, which they're not going to do with their schedule. It's not going to happen. Not with Arch, they're not.
It's not going to happen.
And I was watching High Top Sports to see their reaction. They had a fella on their call-in show that he sums it up perfectly of how the Gators probably really feel.
What I'm about to say, I want to give credit to Billy Napier. The team was ready to come out from the onset. They were ready from the first drive. We all can agree. But you will not find a better game that encapsulates why we need to fire Billy Napier. You will not find a better game that proves why we need to move on, bro. We are one head coach away from competing against anybody. The talent that the Kool-Aid that we all drank before the season started, bro, it was on full display. Come on, we are a head coach away. He called the dumbest timeout I've ever seen in the history of the FBS. He dialed up late in the fourth quarter. He dialed up that pass that got intercepted, but I think it was like 6 or 7 minutes away. Bro, we are one head coach away. We need to move on from this guy. We'll take the win. Don't get me wrong, we'll take the win, but we need to move on. I don't know what y'all think.
Who's your guy?
It's crazy to me. It feels like I just got done watching the Dallas Cowboy documentary. I've told a lot of people down the show. And when Jerry Jones gets rid of Jimmy Johnson, like there's 500 coaches that can coach this team, like alluding to this team is just that good that anybody can come in. That's how I feel watching. It's like, dude, just give somebody with a pulse. Like we're calling better plays from the couch at times.
Yeah. Now they're happy to have the win. You beat Texas in the swamp, and that's going to be something you should enjoy. But they can't really enjoy it because they know short term, yeah, it's great, but long term, it's not good for them because they believe they do have a lot of talent down there. Look, this is a blue blood program that's won 3 natties in the last 20 years with Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. So going 1-3 and now 2-3, they're not going to be real excited. And Billy, I think, is still 1 game under 500 since he was hired. Here's another fella that I've shown many times, Locked On Gators, and he sums it up pretty well.
Pretty much the whole first half, it felt like Florida was just moving Texas, right? All of that being said, with Florida winning this game against number 9 ranked Texas, I hope it wasn't enough for Billy Napier to save his job. I said before this game, like, even if they lost, I don't think he was going to be getting fired this weekend or yesterday or today. Like, I don't think that was going to happen, even if they lost the game. I hope winning the game wasn't enough to keep his job, right? And that's not me. Like, I'm not doing the thing where I think a lot of fans are just like, oh, fire him, get rid of him. He's a bum. He's this, he's that. Like, I think he's just not a championship winning coach. Probably not even a high level SEC coach. And for me, that's enough to say he should be fired. Like, that's really it. I don't need to do the crazy disrespectful thing. I don't need to be hyperbolic about anything. I will say this: you need more than 1 game to prove you belong, right? And we went through this last year. Like, I don't see a way in which Billy Napier should be retained. We've been through the same thing last year, where the first half of the season, or the first quarter of the season, Florida went 2-2. This time it was 1-3, but Florida went 2-2 to start the year last year. Came out of the bye week, good win against UCF, overtime loss against Tennessee at Tennessee, good win, dominant win against Kentucky. And that still, for me, wasn't nearly enough. And then you had the end of the season, of course, where you beat LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. Then now this year so far, you started the year 1-3 with your only win coming against Long Island. This is the first FBS team that you beat this year is Texas. That should not nearly be enough.
They see the forest for the trees. Now, for me as a Tennessee fan, I am fine with Billy Napier being at Florida. I am. And I can tell you the Ole Miss fans, they were rooting for Florida like you cannot believe. They were so happy that Florida beat Texas because that's another week they don't have to worry about Lane Kiffin getting that phone call. And they dread that something awful because Ole Miss is really good and has been ever since Lane showed up there. But Lane was measuring the drapes over at Florida last year, and then all of a sudden Billy won 3 in a row and won 8 games. And Billy has not been blessed with a very good schedule. Their schedule is brutal. It's the toughest in the country, and I don't think there's any question, and has been for 2 years. But I'm fine with Billy being there. I think y'all need to calm down. Make sure, Billy, you don't need to come up with $20 million all of a sudden. Just leave it alone. Now, look, we got to go down to the swamp and play, and we've not won down there in forever. But we have won 2 out of the last 3 with our guy, Josh Heupel. And that is terrific compared to the recent past that we've dealt with Jeremy Pruitt and Butch Jones and whoever the guy is that's running for the Senate now, Dooley, and all those cats. So 2 out of 3, I'm happy. Now, can we win one at the Swamp? I hadn't seen it in a long time. But I feel like with Billy as coach, we have a legitimate chance. I don't need you to find your next Urban Meyer, your next Steve Spurrier. We don't need any of that crap. And I don't want Lane Kiffin there. At first, I kind of did because it'd be more Spurrier against Heupel. The more I've thought about it, I like him at Ole Miss, and I like Billy at Florida. So I kind of root for Florida in a way, and it's not easy for me to do that because they've had our number for a long time, and to finally get that monkey off our back, there's still a monkey to go, though. We got to get the swamp off our back. But I feel like with Billy Napier there, we've got a legitimate shot. I think they need to ride this out. Don't have to come up with $20 million out of nowhere. Billy's a good guy. He's detail-oriented. We know that. And hopefully they win 7 games, not against my Vols. And it's just good enough to keep him another year. And it is what it is. I don't know if I'll get lucky enough for that to happen. But these guys, they're not stupid. They know full well that Florida, with the right coach, can absolutely win a natty. But there's a lot of politics down there. The athletic director does not want Lane Kiffin. Strickland dude, he does not want Lane Kiffin because he doesn't like him. Totally understand that. Lane is a punk, an absolute punk, but he's a darn good football coach. So Strickland wants to keep Billy. And if he'll win 7 games, he'll keep Billy because he can use the $20 million excuse. And these guys will still be struggling. But I will say this, they see it. They know what needs to happen. It's just hard to pull the trigger on 20 mil. But anyway, I wanted to show you those reactions of what's going on with those 2 huge upsets. And when I do my Pick'em series Thursday, I know this hurt my record because I did not have a good weekend like most people. There's just so many games that went the opposite of what you thought they would. But football's kind of becoming that with NIL, transfer portal, and great players not sitting on the bench anymore. I mean, Vanderbilt had a legitimate shot of beating Alabama at Tuscaloosa. I mean, that just blows my mind. That literally, I was watching that game, and I was like, Vanderbilt can absolutely beat Alabama.
Again.
They didn't pull it off, but I'll tell you what, they gave them a game. This is a whole new world, and it's going to get even worse next year when we go to 9 games in the SEC. Sankey is a moron, just a moron. But anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, and boom. That's a subscribe button. Won't cost you a dime, help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk J.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick, huh?